Hi there, this is a project called Certified City. By analyzing the concept of a smart city, we began with making a timeline of how building code developed over time and what it has transformed into today. We began with Vitruvius building code. His advice for preparing a design for a building was that an architect should focus on three central themes: firmitas, utilitas, and venustas. Another important point in history was when the Chicago fire happened and there was a shift from the public to private interest due to the insurance being involved, where third-party private firms first saw the potential. In 1987, the United Nations made an official definition of sustainable development in common culture and brought climate change to the attention of the world. Environmental awareness started to affect the way we value architecture design. Finally, we reached the sustainable certifications, which started to appear in 2007. They're all aiming to promote sustainable architecture by establishing their own set of criteria, value by point. They tend to translate the intangible concept of sustainability to a systematic measurement. The problem is when sustainable certifications become mandatory, whether when it's a municipal issue or when a new building is being designed. It is mandatory to have the sustainability certification. Sustainable certifications are becoming the new building code of today. With the commercial benefit comes along the stamp. Both the real estate developers and the government are putting more and more pressure on getting that stamp. A private seizure of the public interest is starting, and the city is becoming shaped out of private interest. Green certifications are no longer voluntary. They are becoming and will be mandatory in the foreseeable future. Nongham, for example, was supposed to become a luscious green neighborhood with public spaces and landscape binding the inhabitants together. Its master plan reached the gold certification for sustainability. However, none of the landscape, greenery, or public spaces in Nongham proposed before were actually put into place today. Yuen City, which is supposed to be a perfect example for green and sustainable architecture. Yet, what the building does is nothing more than use pre-accepted solutions, matching the checklist mechanically, reaching the minimum to comply with the LEED certification. The points the building checks covers all the sustainability categories, totaling to 84 out of 110 points possible. All these checkpoints allow Yuen City to have the Platinum LEED certification. Our goal for this project will be to reflect on the current checklist with different solutions. This is why we posed the question: what if by using an alternative strategy we could check the same pre-accepted boxes? 4 strategies are envisioned, targeting a different set of points from the LEED checklist. Specifically, a holistic landscape design, envelopes with different climate zones, thermodynamic functionality programming, and sustainable material selection. Firstly, we'll be starting with the landscape. We'll be focusing on how we can alter the surrounding in order to create a space for the inhabitants of Nongham to use together. This could be done through fostering a transversal connection through Nongham. We started to ask ourselves, what if? What if, instead of creating artificial greenery on the rooftop, we could create a coherent natural landscape which acts as a symbiotic organism? What if, instead of creating more roads for cars to move around Nongham, we can create small islands and canals in the landscape in order to introduce net zero transportation with bicycles and kayaks? And what if, instead of creating more underground and overground parking, we can create alternative parking spaces for bicycles and kayaks and once again promote net zero transportation? What if, instead of installing machinery that removes wastewater from the site, we could introduce natural wastewater management with the soil? What if, instead of introducing refrigeration equipment, by altering the landscape, we will enable natural cooling down of the whole building? And what if, instead of adding artificial air conditioning, we could introduce natural ventilation in the building? As well as introducing a new means of transportation for people living in Nongham, we will also be bringing greenery into the site. By creating natural ways for cooling and ventilating the building, we'll be able to minimize the use of mechanical strategies for our building. Secondly, we'll be focusing on the envelope of the building. What if, instead of having the same temperature in the whole building, we could only heat up part of the building and have different climate zones in order to reduce energy consumption? We could divide a building into different areas where different actions could be conducted with their most suitable temperature. 3 layers of envelopes are introduced, namely, well-tempered space wrapped with a heat-proof wall and smaller windows, so that it consumes less energy. The natural tempered space with flexible meeting and working zones, surrounded by a transparent facade, but the temperature would vary from 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. Semi-outdoor space for chatting, green spaces, short meetings, and calls. Let's focus on one arm of the building in order to unfold the different proposed spaces. The well-tempered space will be a continuous loop that twists around the vertical core of the building. The natural tempered space is another loop that weaves into the well-tempered space loop. In a natural tempered space, we will carve out the semi-outdoor space in order to create proximity to nature. References such as Rex Library and Nantes Fine Art Museum are what inspired us to further examine the envelopes of the building. In our vision, thermal condition is an indicator of actions instead of just a certain number to maintain. By dividing spaces with different temperatures, we enable people to perform their actions in the space meant for that. Thirdly, what if, instead of maintaining the same temperature in the whole building, we could create a thermostat in order to orient functions in the building according to the heat gain and loss of the spaces? For example, the gym and kitchen do not require natural sunlight. They could be located at the lowest level of the building. The excess heat created in that space could be used for heating up the semi-outdoor workspace. The next level could be the offices, which would be the well-tempered space for groups and individuals with a stable temperature. The highest level, which is semi-outdoor and exposed to natural daylight, would be a greenhouse alone, which would be receiving excess heat released from the offices. By doing this, the building consumes less energy on heating, and the excess heat is well digested within the programs. What if, instead of using brand new low-quality materials, we could use regional and recyclable materials? For example, reclaimed wood planks and plastic tiles for the ceiling, constructing smaller windows and wrapping semi-outdoor space with mesh. Recycled concrete or reclaimed brick from the site around Denmark for the walls, and reclaimed parquet floors or concrete or end-grain wood found naturally in Denmark. To conclude, rather than adding new mechanical improvement to simply tick boxes on the checklist, with UN City as an example, we're introducing an alternative way for reaching the sustainable certification checklist through focusing on architectural and urban strategies.